Welcome to my channel Pharmacypedia. In this session, we are going to start a new playlist about the new subject Physical Pharmaceutics 1. So in the Physical Pharmaceutics 1, I'm going to start with the Unit 2, which is about the states of matter and properties of the matter. So when we talk about the states of the matter, let us first try to understand what is a matter. So matter is something which occupies the space and has a mass. So anything which has a mass and occupies the space is called a matter. Overall, the matter can be classified on various bases. The first is on the basis of the physical form. So on the basis of the physical form, the matter can be classified as solids, liquids, gases, plasma, etc. And on the basis of the chemical classification, it can be classified in two types. The first is the pure substance and second is the mixtures. So when we talk about the pure substance, it includes elements and other compounds. When we talk about the mixture may be a homogeneous mixture or a heterogeneous mixture. So homogeneous when the solute gets dissolved into the solvent homogeneously, that throughout it is in a properly distribution form, and heterogeneous when the solute is not able to get dissolved in the solvent, and then it is referred to as the heterogeneous. So the mixture is non-uniform. So let us first try to understand on the basis of physical classification. So on the basis of physical classification, basically the matter can be classified into solids, liquids and gases. So when we talk about the gases, they are the most compressible fluids. Why? Because the molecules are far apart from each other. They are so far apart that when you apply the pressure, molecules come close to each other and they can be compressed, since a lot of vacant space lies between these molecules. Liquid is the intermittent form in a way that it is a relatively incompressible fluid. So it can be compressed but to a little extent, since the molecules are more tightly packed as compared to the gases. On the contrary, solids are totally incompressible and they are very rigid. The reason being that molecules or ions are in close contact with each other and they don't move. So it is a neatly arranged, whereby molecules are arranged in a particular pattern and they are very close to each other, so they cannot be compressed. So when you apply the pressure, you cannot compress the solids. So of all these forms, we should know what are the properties of solids, what are the properties of liquids and gases. So when we talk about the solids, they have the maximum force of the attraction and they are very closely packed. On the contrary, liquids have lesser intermolecular force of attraction and the particles flow with each other. And the gases have the minimum intermolecular force of attraction. Since they have the minimum intermolecular forces of attraction, the particles move far apart from each other and they flow independently. So these are the property differences between solids, liquids and gases. So the fundamental difference between the matter is the distance between the particles. So you can see solid is the most organized and neatly arranged form as compared to liquids, and gases are totally having the particles with the minimum intermolecular forces of attraction and they move randomly. So the thermal energy directions and the intermolecular forces increases as we move from gases to liquid and then to solids. Similarly, the thermal energy increases when we move from solids to liquid and then to gases. Another forces which act among the molecules is the attractive forces, and second is the repulsive forces. So as the name indicates, attractive forces, so it depends on the charges. So the opposite charges attracts, opposite molecules attracts, and whereas the same ions repel each other. So like on the basis of modern basis of classification of the matter, they have been further classified into 12 categories. The first is the solid, liquid, gases. So these three are basically the clear structure, clear way of classification, whereby the whole matter can be classified into these three broad categories. But nowadays, intermittent stages, for example, the stage between solid or liquid, or between liquid or gases, or between solid and gases, they can be further classified. So they have been classified into different categories such as plasma, superfluid, super solid, Bose-Einstein condensate, firm ionic condensate, stringnet liquid, supercritical fluid, colloid, and degenerated matter. So these are the intermittent stages. So now we know what are the matter, what are the physical basis of classification, modern basis of classification. We can identify the property differences between the three forms, solid, liquid, and gases. Next, we move to the changes in the state of the matter. So as the term indicates change, one form of the matter can be changed to another form of the matter by changing the atmospheric condition. For example, if we start with the solid, we heat the solid, it will get converted into the liquid first. So after liquid, if we further heat it, then it will vaporize in the form of the gas. Reversely, if we condense the gas, then first it will be converted to liquid, and if we condense and freeze it further, it will become solid. So there are different terms which are being associated on the basis of change in the states of the matter. For example, when liquid is being phased out, it converts into solid. When solid get converted into gas without bypassing the liquid state, the phenomena is known as sublimation. So sublimation is the direct conversion of solid into the gaseous form without first converting into the liquid form. And when the gas is being condensed directly into the solid, the term is referred to as deposition. Similarly, we have the neon sign plasmas, whereby the gases, when they are being ionized, they convert into the plasmas, and when they are being recombination, they get converted into the gases. So basically, the changes in the state of matter broadly is classified into 6 steps. The first is the freezing, melting, deposition, sublimation, vaporization, and condensation. So when we talk about the conversion of solid to liquid, it becomes the freezing. Solid to liquid, it becomes the melting, and then when the liquid gets converted into solid, it becomes freezing. Similarly, when the solid gets converted into gas, the phenomena is referred to as sublimation, and when gas gets converted into solid, it is referred to as deposition. When the liquid gets converted into the gaseous state, this phenomena is known as vaporization, and on the contrary, when the gas gets converted into liquid on condensation, the phenomena is referred to as condensation. So these changes are very easy, and they are being done in the atmospheric nature naturally also. Next, we move on to the latent heat. You must have observed that when we heat the liquid on the gas, it first gets converted into vapors. So when we heat it, the temperature rises initially. So when we keep the pan on the gas, we provide the heat to it, the temperature rises. So slowly temperature rises, and once it reaches 100 degrees Celsius, this is the temperature whereby it starts getting converted into the vapor. Further, when we increase the temperature, the temperature does not increase, but instead the heat energy is utilized in the conversion of liquid to gaseous vapor form. So this is the energy which is utilized further in the conversion from the liquid to the gaseous vapor form is known as the latent heat. Why it is called latent heat? Because it is the hidden heat. So converting the states of matter from one form to another requires involvement of heat energy. The hidden heat, latent heat, is referred to as the hidden heat. So this hidden heat is referred to as the latent heat. So the heat necessary to transform from one state of matter, for example solid, to another, for example liquid, without actual rise in the temperature. Please mention this fact: without actual rise in the temperature until these changes are complete is known as the hidden heat. So when we make the tea, we boil the water. So when we start first heating up the liquid, heating up the water, the temperature rises, but at a point it starts converting from liquid to vapor stage. So that is the latent heat. So at a specific, it rises till 100 degrees Celsius, and at above it, if we heat it further, the energy will be utilized in from liquid to the gaseous form. This is known as the hidden heat or the latent heat. Now again, there are two types of the latent heat. The first is the heat of fusion, and second is the heat of vaporization. So as the term indicate, the latent heat which is associated with the melting of a solid or a freezing of liquid is called the heat of fusion. So this term fusion is referred to as conversion from solid to liquid or liquid to gaseous. So the fusion actually refers to solid liquid conversions. Heat of vaporization, the heat which is utilized with vaporizing a liquid or a solid or condensing a vapor. So the heat which is being associated with the vapor of either a solid or liquid will be referred to as the heat of vaporization. Next, we move on to the latent heat. The heat which is expressed is the amount of the heat per mole or unit mass of the substance undergoing a change of state. So we need to understand here is that the amount of the heat is expressed as a per mole or per unit mass, and it is referred in the form of the joules or the calories. So the hidden heat which is required to change from one form to another without actual rise of the temperature will be referred to as the latent heat, and latent heat is expressed in the form of joules or calories. So like examples of heat of fusion and heat of vaporization I have mentioned earlier. Next we move on to the vapor pressure. So the vapor pressure of any liquid is the equilibrium pressure of a vapor above its liquid. For example, the pressure of a vapor resulting from the evaporation of a liquid or solid above a sample of the liquid in a closed container. So if we take a container and we close it with a lid, then we heat the container. What will happen? There occur a point where the lid starts moving or shaking. The reason being that the liquid state has changed to the vapor state, and this vapor uh, state is actually putting up the pressure. So this pressure which is exerted by the vapors on the lid is referred to as the vapor pressure. So when there is a lid on the container, the gas phase molecules are trapped and they are vapor. So the vapor creates a pressure. So if you covered it with a lid, this vapor pressure which is being felt by the lid is sometimes results in the shaking of the lid or the removal of the lid as well. So different substances have different vapor pressure. For example, we notice the vapor pressure at 25 degrees Celsius. We found that different sort of the pressure is observed by the lid with the different substances. For example, when we have diethyl ether, we observe a vapor pressure of about 0.7 atmosphere ATM. Then bromine 0.0 atmosphere, ethyl alcohol 0.08, and water 0.03. So you can see among these provided list of the substance, diethyl ether have the highest vapor pressure. So now vapor pressure can also be measured, and it is being found that as the temperature of a solid or a liquid increases, the vapor pressure also increases, and vapor pressure decreases as the temperature decreases. So like it is directly proportional to the temperature. So as the temperature increases, vapor pressure increases. As the temperature decreases, vapor pressure decreases. Now let us try to understand the factors which affects the vapor pressure. So vapor pressure is impacted by four factors. The first is the surface area. So if you have the larger surface area, there will be a larger rate of the evaporation and resulting a larger rate of the evaporation. Since the scaling factor is the same, the vapor pressure is independent of the surface area. Now you have to always keep in mind this thing whenever you are asked any question about the surface area and vapor pressure relation. You have to mention that vapor pressure is independent of the surface area. So the vapor pressure is the equilibrium pressure, so where the rate of evaporation is equal to the rate of condensation. So since the scaling factor remains the same, it is said that the vapor pressure is independent of the surface area. Because evaporation which has reached equilibrium with the liquid surface is said to have a saturated solution. Then second, types of the molecules. So it is being found if you have the solid whereby the intermolecular forces are very strong, the vapor pressure will be low. You can understand, since if the forces are strong, that means all the molecules are tightly intact and it will require larger heat to vaporize it. So in that case, more heat is being required, so the vapor pressure will be low. So it will take time to generate the vapor pressure. If the intermolecular forces between the molecules is weak, then what will happen? They will get separated from each other with the less heat. So in that case, the vapor pressure could be achieved very high in a short span of the time. The other factors which impact the vapor pressure is the temperature. This we have discussed. So at the higher temperature, more molecules have sufficient energy to escape and change the form. So at lower temperature, only few molecules have that energy to escape and change the form. So it is directly proportional to the temperature. As the temperature increases, vapor pressure increases. As the temperature decreases, vapor pressure decreases. And last, for intermolecular forces. So those liquid in which the intermolecular forces are weak shows higher vapor pressure. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel Pharmacypedia for getting further updates about the Physical Pharmaceutics 1 videos. Thank you so much.